Medical information obtained from our website or the live show is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. If your pet has, or you suspect they might have, an illness or other medical condition, you should consult a healthcare provider. The opinions expressed on this radio program are not necessarily those of all Paws Pet Talk, this radio show, or their sponsors.
And now live in this studio, it's the All Paws Pet Talk call-in radio show with the valuable knowledge and expertise of our panel guests. Ready to take your calls. Listen for the phone number so you may call in live. Take it away, panel.
Hello, you're listening to All Paws Pet Talk Radio with your host, Deb Wolf. And today with me once again is Dr. Cathy Alinovi. She's coming to me from the Midwest, I think. So there's probably lots of cold weather out there. Welcome to the show, cold. Dr. Cathy. Is it? Is it cold?
Oh, it's cold. It's yucky. The weather's going up and down. It's melting and it's freezing and everyone's sick. And yeah, that's the Midwest in the winter.
Well, in our second segment, we're going to talk about how to keep your pet safe in cold weather. And can your dog or cat catch the flu from you when you cuddle them? We're going to talk about that. But first, I know you want to get the word out about the recalls, Dr. Cathy. So let's let our listeners know what they got to worry about.
You bet. Really big news. Yesterday it was announced that Nestle Purina has recalled Wagon Train in the Canyon Ranch jerky treats, and Del Monte has recalled the Milo's Kitchen jerky treats. These treats are all imported from China. They're being recalled for presence of adulteration. So there's residue of antibiotics in there that is not acceptable in American pet foods. So, yay, they're off the shelf. Our pets are now safe.
Well, maybe. I mean, I just heard a few weeks ago a recall about trophy nuts, and 2 days later I saw the exact batch, the exact type being sold in one store, and then a couple days later in another. I'm not sure recalls work unless people are vigilant.
And you're absolutely right, because several hours later, some of the really large national retailers still had them all over their shelves. So for the people who are aware, anyone who has those jerky treats will get a recall, but they have to approach the originating company. And you're absolutely right. If the retailers don't pull them off the shelf, then they're still being sold.
There was a woman in New York City going around labeling with her own labels, sticking it on all the chicken jerky treats. This will kill your dog. This will kill your dog. Oh, she's been waging a campaign for over a year because a lot of animals were dying from these chicken jerky treats that looked like they were made in America or made in Canada, because it would say, packaged in Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was really from China, and it was the same illnesses in all these same animals, liver and kidney problems, the same exact write-up, and a lot of them were dying, just dying. And, no one was owning up to it. There was a whole CBC program on this. And then they sort of pointed out that things could be recalled, resold, repackaged, and sold in dollar stores. Like, I just don't see why anyone would buy jerky right now for an animal. Would you?
I wouldn't. No, that's why I keep trying to tell people how easy it is to make. Just get some chicken breast and dehydrate it. Same cost and no risk. And that's the one thing with the recall is that, okay, so now the treats have been recalled for presence of antibiotic residues. We still don't know why our pets have died from them. There are over 2,000 complaints against these jerky treats, and we still don't know why. However, they're supposed to be off the shelf now, and so maybe we'll save a few lives.
Mm-hmm. It's a difficult process to get something banned, to get it off the shelf, to get the companies that produce it to cooperate, to get the public to know. And it seems like it's just one thing after another. I think people tune out because it's like there's always something being recalled, isn't there?
There is, and to me, I thought this was huge news, and I had talked to a reporter at one of the local large cities who was all set to go on 11 p.m. news with it. Nothing, no story. It's not big until thousands of dogs are affected, like with the melamine recalls in 2007. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I would even say at this point, because that's already happened, I think the only thing that would capture news is something like Obama's own dog. It would have, or some celebrity, some dog we know from TV, Eddie from Frasier dies from chicken jerky. That's what it would take, I think, for people to care.
And it's sad that that's what it takes, because we don't want anybody's dog affected, let alone some celebrity.
Well, and it puts into question a lot of other things. Like in Canada, there's no regulation for pet food. It's exempt. It just slips through the cracks. And, then you wonder if something like a pet food product can be labeled so that everyone thinks it's made in Canada and safe when it's really made in China. Isn't that happening with the stuff we feed our kids in the city? Like, it's not just going to be mistakes on pet food people are making, I would think.
It's not. So, one of the things that I harp on is Animal Digest. And so we talked about it being in our pet food, but you know where else it is? In regular everyday things that most of us use, a lot of people use. How about lipstick and crayons?
Okay.
So, ground up euthanized pets, boiled down into this gooey mess, goes into lipstick.
Okay.
Rather yucky.
You're saying we're just putting toxins all over ourselves, aren't we?
We are, and so exactly supporting what you're saying, that we just don't know what it is, and it's not just pets and children; it's all of us, everything.
I think sometimes our pets are almost like our little guinea pigs, like the canary in the coal mine back in the olden days. If the canary died, well, then you knew the miners had to get out of there, because if there wasn't enough air for the canary,
yeah.
Right? And these
but now
are
they're waiting for hundreds of canaries to die before they get out.
Exactly. And these are little, tiny, naked beings, some of them as small as 5 pounds, as big as 80 pounds, but still, they're like kids in terms of what they can handle, toxicity. And so, that they get sick first is kind of like a tip to us that we got to really watch what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
So how can people do things instead of taking that tempting little, bonus bag on sale now, clearance, chicken jerky? And what can they do instead? Besides making their own chicken jerky, what else can they do at home they can pamper their pet, they can spoil their pet, but it's not going to make their pet sick with overweight, obesity, that kind of thing, and it's also not going to poison their pet. What can they do at home that's easy?
As far as treats, you mean?
Sure.
A lot of most healthy human treats, quote unquote, would actually be healthy for our pets. Your only big no-no is grapes, only because we don't know why and who's dying of kidney failure. But if you want to feed jerky, how about those sticks at the checkout stand that are for humans? It's human grade. It's the same thing, and it's actually less expensive. How about carrots, green beans? You can make your own little biscuits. How about little those fig cookies?
Yeah, Fig Newton type things.
Yeah, the Fig Newton-y type thing, Newman's Own Newton, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of sugar in there, but if you look at the bags of, for example, most of the treats like the pepperoni and the bacon strip and all that, there's not a whole lot of meat in there. In fact, really basically none. It's meat flavor, and sugar's in there twice, and it's a whole lot of fillers, and so why not give them the real thing? Make a little bit
everybody,
of extra bacon.
We'll be back in a minute with Dr. Cathy. We're going to talk more about cold weather and flu and colds, and are you making your dog sick? Should you stop cuddling the cat when you have the flu? Stay tuned. We'll be back with Dr. Cathy. Hello! You're back on All Paws Pet Talk Radio. It's Deb Wolf calling from the rainforest right now, where there is actually snow, and lots of it. And I'm talking to Dr. Cathy, and she's over in the Midwest, and I'm sure her weather's probably worse than mine. We could do a My Day's Worse Than Yours kind of contest, and I bet you'd win. It's really pretty here.
Mine's gloomy.
Oh, really? No, here it's sunny, and there's a light dusting of snow on all the trees. This is like postcard stuff, not the real winter stuff. This is just a taste of it. The kind of day when the kids wake up and they say, do we have to go to school? As they look at their sleds, But, okay, so if I'm sick right? When I'm sick, my cats love to cuddle with me. So do my dogs. They seem to know I'm down, and they come, or maybe it's just that I'm, more likely to stay still long enough for them to get a good cuddle. But am I making them sick if I breathe all over them? I mean, I sometimes think about that with the Kleenexes piling up on the side, especially when one of my kids is sick, and they're just sort of, leaking sickness out of every place, and the cat's right there. Is the cat going to get sick? It is, isn't it?
So conventionally, we've said that viruses don't transfer between species, but let's talk about the flu. The human flu recombines in birds and pigs, which is part of what can make it so virulent some years. So we already know that it goes into 3 species. And then in the last couple of years, because there's been a lot of attention on the flu, we have found cases of it in dogs and cats. And so, yes, there is the possibility of some cross-species illness. The other things to think about, when we get the flu, normally, we get a little bit feeling bad, but when we get super sick is when there are bacterial invasions, and that's where the flu becomes pneumonia. The bacteria definitely can transmit between species, and so those yucky Kleenex laying around, I have a dog who'll eat them if I don't take care of that.
Oh, that's horrible. I bet he eats other things too, like socks.
So he gets a mouthful of yucky nose boogies, and so, I could be transmitting cooties to him that way.
Oh, that's horrible.
And one other thing to think about is, so maybe you won't get your cat sick directly by giving them your virus, but what makes viruses happy and active anyway is temperature changes. When we have 20 and 30 degree temperature changes in a day, like we seem to have here in the Midwest all the time, we're going to have it today, that's when everybody gets sick and lots of flu goes on. And so maybe my flu I don't give to my dog, but my dog may go get her own flu, and it's because she's exposed to that same 30 degree temperature change.
Can a dog get the flu or a cold and give it to us then? I guess so, right? If it goes one way, it would go the other, wouldn't it? Same with the cats,
Potentially,
right?
it really would. Potentially it would, right. So all of us need good, healthy immune systems.
I think of the one thing I remember as a kid was if you went horseback riding, you were in horse riding camp or lessons or something, if you had pink eye, you weren't allowed to go near the horses. So that's a special one, isn't it?
That's usually a bacteria. And so what do we do when we have pink eye? We rub our eyes. And do we wash our hands? No. And then we go pet the horses, and we maybe pick an eye boogie out of their eye, and boom, contamination. Then the horse gets it. Yes, you bet.
Is that serious for horses? Is that why they were so strict about it?
It can be. They don't have the good blinking some have, and because they blink. They don't have third eyelids like dogs do. And I think because a lot, when we take them out riding and they're out and they're looking and all these things are whipping by, their eyes are exposed to more. And horses, for some reason, their eyes are very sensitive, where other species don't tend to get as many eye issues. But eyes and horses, we don't want that to go bad. And besides, try putting eye goo in your horse's eye to be medicated every 2 hours.
Brother. That would be a
my chihuahua.
And if the eye drop is something that stings rather than soothes, good luck on day 2, right?
Right, because now your horse is 10 feet tall and your arms are never long enough.
Yeah, and he's not going to calm down for it. I don't know if the eye drops soothe but I do notice when I have to medicate dogs at Camp Good Dog, they'll come with all their meds and everything. You can tell whether this thing you're putting into their ear or eye or whatever it is on their sore feels good or feels bad. I mean, you can tell that the animal's reluctantly putting up with it and wincing or volunteering because it feels so good. You can tell the difference. And with a horse, that can be a dangerous difference.
Yes.
So, okay, so you've got cold weather, I've got cold weather. Around here, we don't have much to worry about. They're not salting the roads or anything, but I imagine where you are, that's a huge concern, right? Your pet drinking and eating and licking off all kinds of salt.
Yes, lots of salt on the road and the sidewalks. There's some nice new pet-safe salt-type products now. so that you don't have to worry as much about them walking across it and then coming in and licking off their feet. So that is something to think about, and that's what we've got going on here in front of the vet clinic. Some of that nice, safer salt.
But if you think your pet's run through some not-so-safe salt, if you've been walking him out on the street, just rinse it, right? Go home and stick him in a bucket or a tub and rinse it off. That would be the way to go. Don't let him lick it off himself, because he has to. Nope. Somehow it's got to get off there, right?
Yep, little foot bath. Be better to have a little foot bath and then dry off their little tootsies instead of having them lick the yuckies off, you bet.
And what else do people need to know about the cold?
One other thing, so what we're going to experience this week here in the dreary Midwest is it's going to start raining, and then it's going to turn to freezing temperatures. And that's really risky for outside animals. You know, not a lot of people think about what happens with livestock, but this time of year is highest risk because the farmers are trying to have their early spring calves. They're trying to have them January and February. And when it goes from wet to frozen, the little baby calves can't get their temperatures regulated, whereas if they're born in the snow, that's fine. They're dry. They have no problem with that. So now think about our outside cats. For those people who have farms or live out in the country, if the kitty gets wet and then things turn to freezing, it's a lot harder for that cat to get all dried off and warmed up. So anything we can do, give them shelter, let them come into the garage, into the tack room, that sort of thing, will really help a lot. Our inside pets, they go outside, get wet. Let's make sure we towel them off and really give them a head start for getting all warmed back up.
And make sure you have shelter that is always shelter. You know, if the wind direction changes or something like that, it doesn't fill up with snow or wind. You know, it has to be shelter. You might need 2 spots, 2 dog houses in the yard, so that at different times of day, the dog has shelter. And water, too. Water freezes and water gets tipped over. So make sure your animals always have access to water. Snow is not water.
No, it takes a whole lot of body energy to melt that and make it into water. So someone who's already cold will get even colder trying to lick frozen water at the ice and the snow.
And the coat is important, too. You know, if your dog doesn't have a long winter coat, if it isn't an Alaskan Malamute, a St. Bernard, or a poodle that hasn't been clipped since last summer, it really shouldn't be out there very long. It really shouldn't. It's just not fit for it.
No, my beagle says, it's cold, I'm going to pee and come right back in.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, some of these little min pins and stuff, they won't even go out. They're like, can I have a litter box? Because this sucks.
Yeah, please. You know, where's the piddle pad? I'm not doing that.
So what else should people know? We only have a couple minutes left, and I know it's cold there. I think extreme exercise is probably out when it's cold like this, wouldn't you think?
It can hurt their lungs like ours. If you've ever tried running when it's really, really cold, that's hard to get the air warmed up through the nose and the lungs. Same for them. You know, wintertime, I tend to eat warmer, more comforting foods. They like that, too. They like to get a little bit rounder in the winter. We don't want them to get fat, but everybody's trying to make their own body heat. So anything that keeps us all warm and snuggly is really pretty awesome for everybody.
Well, right now up on Facebook, we've got pictures of the dogs at Camp Good Dog. And so if you're listening from Orlando, Florida, or Paradise, California, or some horrible place I don't even want to think of on a day like this, then check us out, and you can see puppies and dogs playing in snow, and it'll look good, and you won't have to put on your mittens, and you won't have to worry about the cold. You just get to look at it. So that's Facebook, Camp Good Dog. Okay, so Dr. Cathy, how can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to hear more?
You can find me on Facebook, just Cathy Alinovi on Facebook, and that'd be a great way.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope you have a good day with your animals, and I sure hope it warms up for you. You know, I don't think you should be looking for a job with the tourism board in your local area, because somehow you don't seem to like the weather there. I think it agrees with you. It's time for you to think about moving. Me too. What do you say we relocate somewhere? Like
Let's
Florida.
find it somewhere where it stays tropical year-round, and then we just have to deal with giant bugs.
Yeah, that's true. And fleas. Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Cathy. Until next time.
Thank you.
Paws Pet Talk Radio.